How to talk with your manager. You likely have a manager. You likely have someone that you report to. It could be internal at a company, or it could be the board, or it could be a big client or any of your clients. These are your managers. You likely have a manager that you report to. You have people that you want to be talking to about this. So let's get started. When you speak with your manager, there are going to be three things that are important. Things about the manager, things about you and the manager, and things about you. Here are all 6 tools for you right away. The first one is speaking with your manager about the manager. There are 2 tools in this section, which is most need and big rocks. Most need. The biggest thing you need to know about your manager is what your manager most needs, whether that's what your manager needs every week or over the next 6 months or next year. But you really, if you don't know your manager's main goal, you don't know what you're doing in your job to contribute to that main goal. And I'll even tell you, if your manager's big goal is X and your job for your manager is Y that has very little to do with X, that means your job is not as critical to your manager as other people that the manager manages. So in as much as possible, what you do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, has to contribute to what the manager most needs. That means that when you are actually speaking with your manager, a very normal question that managers actually love answering is, what do you most need this week? What do you most need this month? So there's that most need. One of the people on my team, she does something wonderful. Every week on Saturday, she sends me a survey and I reply to it before Monday. And those are the priorities of this week and the things that I most need for us to get done. So most need. The next conversation you can have with your manager is big rocks. And one of our coaches, Catherine Britton, has an excellent section about this, about big rocks. You probably know about the big rocks discussion. This is about when you are filling in, let's say you're filling in a bucket. It's a story that's been told many times, but if you're filling in a bucket, you can do one of 2 things. So let's say bucket number 1 and bucket number 2. In bucket number 1, and let's say you need to fill in some big rocks, some medium-sized rocks, and some sand. So if you put in, let's say you put in the sand first, the medium and the big rocks are just not going to fit. So this is the bucket where you've put in the sand first. Now let's say you've put in the big rocks and then the medium rocks and then the sand. The sand can filter in between the big and the medium. I'm sure you're familiar with this analogy. All this to say is you can use this as vernacular, as literally the language that you're speaking with your manager. So at the beginning, at every one-on-one meeting, you can say, what are the big rocks for you right now? Here are my big rocks. Here are the big rocks I'm working on. But really, these 2 sections are about the manager. What does the manager most need? That should always be top of mind for you. And what are the manager's big rocks? Their biggest priorities. So it's a way of speaking about big priorities. Okay, we've done 2. We've done the 2 tools for the manager, most need and big rocks. 2 tools about you and the manager. This one is one of my favorites. I first heard this from Gordon Perry, who's been a coach with us, and it's roles and goals. This can happen at the beginning of your working with a manager. It can happen in the middle. It can happen all over, all the time. It can be an iterative discussion. What are my roles and what are your roles? What are my goals and what are your goals? It's so important to have that delineation so that you know how your role is helping your manager and what your goals are helping the manager's goals. And I'll tell you, it's really nice for clarity. So whether you have this again at the beginning of working with a certain manager or iteratively at different points, there may be a little negotiation. There are things that you may want to take off your manager's plate that would help them, but that also you might have an interest in. So that kind of discussion can happen regularly. And it's such an above board welcoming discussion, which is to say in a meeting, could we have a discussion about roles and goals? What role do you most want me to fill? What are the main goals? People are very open to you saying, hey, I want to make sure that we're on the same page, that we're aligned. So now we've got first tool for you and the manager. And the second is a little bit of a discussion that you can have regularly. I tend to like to call this high-low trenches need, but you can call it anything you like as long as you cover the main things. So in a one-on-one meeting with your manager, I tend to love to cover what's the high, what's the best thing that's happened since we last talked in the department or in the business that I'm running for you. Or with a client, what's the high, what's the best thing that's happened? What's a low? So what's something where it hasn't really gone well, and here's how I'm working on fixing that. Because that's important to know, those challenges and what you're working on. trenches. I call it trenches, but it's really, what are you hearing in the trenches? There are a lot of things that you may know that your manager may not yet know. So that high, low trenches and need. Need is what you need, whether you need a decision from your manager or you need some resources. Again, being above board about it. So now we've talked about 2 tools about the manager and 2 tools about you and the manager. The 2 about you and the manager were roles and goals, and then this high, low, trenches, need. All right, we're coming to our third part, and probably the part that most of you who are interested in moving forward in your career want to hear about, which is, how do I speak to my manager about moving forward in my career? And for that, I have 2 tools for you. And we do this with coaching clients all the time as they're moving forward in their career. And just to preface, managers love it when you take charge of your own career. So if you go to a manager and you say, hey, I've actually been thinking a lot about my career and what's important, and here are the things that I've been thinking, you're taking a complete load off their shoulders. They should not be thinking about that for you anywhere near as much as you should be thinking about it for yourself. And if you have a plan and a strategy, it's helpful and easy for them to work inside that. So managers are open to you coming and speaking about your career. Not every day, maybe not even every week, but at specific times. So let's talk about how you can talk about you with your manager. All right, so 1 tool. Next steps career-wise. Highly, highly recommend this. When people talk with us about how do I speak with my manager about getting a promotion in the next 6 months, in the next year, one of the biggest things I say as a coach is, what discussions have you had so far? What does your manager know about what's interesting and important for you? So that the discussion you can have is, you can plan it, you can send an email saying, for 20 minutes of our 1-hour talk, or I want to schedule a separate 30-minute talk with you to talk about some things that I've been thinking about in terms of next steps career-wise. It doesn't even mean you're leaving the department you're in. It doesn't mean anything is changing. It just means here is what you're developing. Here are the experiences you're building, and here's where you hope it will take you down the road. And the more you can talk about timing with your manager, the more you can get some pushback, which is also useful, or you can get some agreement. So what this discussion is this is a next steps career-wise. Definitely before you have this discussion, don't just throw it on a manager. They may be really busy with the tasks of the day or the week. But when you're talking to a manager, just say, hey, could we have our next conversation in a half hour just about career direction and some things I've been thinking about? And then you can lay out some of the thoughts you've had, what you're doing, and where you want to move to. And the final of our six different things we've been doing today, 2 about the manager, 2 about you and the manager, and 2 about you. The final one is experiments you're running. And again, managers love this. So what is this? This is when you speak to a manager and you say, hey, I just want to, again, you schedule this separately. I want to speak with you about some of the experiments I'm running. And you can say, I am running experiments on managing a team that's in conflict, and here's what I'm trying. I am running experiments on trying to speed up our delivery in this area specifically. And here's what I'm trying, and here's what I'm doing. When you speak with a manager about experiments you're running, you're inviting them into your head. You're letting them come into your head. And that's delightful because managers can then see you grow over time. I'll give you a personal example. My son plays chess. And it's really fun when he's online and he's playing chess, he'll actually speak out loud when I'm in the same room. And he'll say, oh, I see that threat, or I know what's going on, or I can beat him next about his opponent. So he's speaking out loud what he's learning. And as he's doing that, I'm following his progress and just seeing how much he advances as a chess player. So similarly, when you're running experiments and you talk through those experiments, your manager knows where you are and where to continue to help you. On the contrary side, even sometimes I've done a 360 where I interview managers, peers, direct reports, a couple of senior people. And sometimes I get the feedback, my team member isn't coming to me with their challenges. They're only coming to me with successes and good things. I want to know those challenges. I want to know what they're trying, what experiments they're running on those challenges. So be vocal about that. If you're getting coaching, talk to your manager about experiments you're running with your coach in terms of being a better leader, a better manager. So just keep talking about the things you're not yet sure about, but that you're taking steps on, because that shows that growth. All right, I'm going to summarize all of this and take all of your comments, questions, answers for me. Here we go. Today we talked about 3 different categories of ways that you can speak with your manager. And those 3 are about the manager, about you and the manager, and about you. Here are the 2 about the manager. What do you most need? What do you most need this week? Is what you most need for the next year this? Am I still on track with what I believe, what you've told me before? What do you most need? What are your big rocks? What are the most important things for you to get done? Again, whether this week or on a different time horizon. What are your big rocks? Are they still the same? Have they changed? What are your big rocks? That's about the manager. Now about you and the manager, this iterative discussion of roles and goals, making sure your goals are aligned with the manager's goals, making sure you're clear about your role. And just keep thinking about this as something that can help both you and the manager, and come to it with a really open mind. I'm telling you, managers love roles and goals discussions because sometimes things may shift and they may want to give you a slightly different role or goal or change in it. Roles and goals. Second one about you and the manager. Just this update kind of thing. Here was the high, here was the low. Here's what I'm hearing in the trenches. Here are the things you may not be hearing that I want to convey to you. And here are the things that I need, whether it's resources or a decision or things like that. Okay, and now the 2 about you. So summarizing. Next steps career-wise, schedule this separately, and then talk about here's what I've been thinking about. Lay out your thoughts. Really check in about timing. Get their thoughts on your thoughts so far about your career. And then this other one about you, which is here are the experiments I've been running. That's it. Those are 6 different things you can use in speaking with your manager, 2 in each of the categories of you and the manager, and you. Sorry, your manager, you and the manager, and you. And I'm open to questions. I'll take the questions that you all have here. And I'm delighted that you've joined us here. Looking forward to speaking with you again and more. This has been How to Talk with Your Manager. For more